Hi, welcome back to Releasing the Weight. Today's video is all about how to forgive, how to move on, and making sure that your posture, your heart's posture, is correct, even when you come across those who may have wronged you, who may have moved, shady or did something that you would have never expected them to. So, this video actually is inspired by a previous post that I've seen on social media. And I've seen this post like months ago. I haven't even seen it in my rotation, lately. But I constantly think about that video, and I decided, man, let me go ahead and do this video so maybe it can get off my conscience. But to give context before diving into my notes, the lady, or the young lady, was a preacher, and she was just kind of talking about asking God, what do I do when I get to the table? Because she was referencing 23rd Psalm. So maybe I should back up and say that. She was referencing the 23rd Psalms, the part where it says, "Thou preparest a table before me in the presence of my enemies." And she said, God, what do I do when people I did not expect to be at the table are sitting there? And I must admit, even in my lifetime, there were people I would never expect to be at my table either. But her response was, eat. She said God told her to just eat. And I don't blame her. You going through warfare, you're going through different things, and you get to the table with people you wasn't expecting. Yeah, I would imagine you would be eating because you're at the table to eat. But as I kept thinking about the scenario and even how it applies to my life and things that actively were transpiring at one point, in life, I think God was basically telling me to feed my enemies. And I'm be honest, I still had something in my heart for some people. So I was like, feed them. I'm being lied on, I'm being talked about, my character being slandered, and you telling me to feed the very thing that's doing all of this? I was not pleased with God at this moment. Feed them? No. But I can promise you, and I can attest to you right now, today, we're what? Let me look at my watch. Monday, May 13th, that I love everybody, even the ones that might even work my nerves. I love everybody. And I desire for people to be the best version of themselves. At the end of the day, that's why I even have this platform, this space, is to help people be the best version of themselves, okay? Releasing the weight, okay? And so, again, now that we have a little bit of context on how we even how we even got to this video, I want to reiterate repeat the 23rd Psalms. I don't have the verse because but the 23rd Psalms, where it says, again, thou preparest a table before me in the presence of my enemies. Okay. And so I immediately want to talk about our enemies. It's a lot of talk on social media. You scroll every video and it's about your enemies. God gonna do this because your enemies, your enemies, your enemies, your enemies. And don't get me wrong, there are times where you gonna have to be like, you know what, my enemy ain't about to play in my face like this. My enemies are gonna do this and gonna do that. There are just times and moments where you're gonna have to feel like you got to push back on your enemies, not with vengeance, but just a stand still and see the salvation of the Lord type of stance. Like, I will not be moved by what you're saying. I will not be moved by how you're gathering people to team up against me to really protect your flaws. You get what I'm saying? To really protect your flaws, but make me look like the bad person. I'm going to stand still and see the salvation. I'm not even going to address it. I'm going to stay silent and let the Lord fight my battles. That's Exodus chapter 14, 13 through 14. I even have a video on that. But God will fight for you. So don't even worry about your enemies. And another one of my favorite chapters that I always talk about on this channel is Isaiah 54, where you know, I always go to this verse and I always stumble on it, even though it's my favorite. But it's where it talks about God saying that he creates your enemies, the blacksmith that blows coals in the fire. He created all of that. I talk about it all the time on this channel, so I'm not going to go there today. But we give our enemies way too much credit, or I should say the wrong type of credit. I think our enemies have been better to us than our own friends have been. We say that it's our friends that tell us the truth. We say that it's our friends that that will share with us in the things that we're going through. We say that it's our friends, but really it's our enemies. Our enemies are the things that's going to help catapult us and launch us into that next place, that next dimension, that next level that I definitely have been talking about this year, not on here, but you know, in my own space. And I think it's really important that we understand that it really is our enemies. I appreciate friends. I appreciate how they love on you, because you need that aspect. But this last season that it came out, I said, you know, it's really, I understand it now when they say, keep your friends close, but keep your enemies closer. Your enemies are going to challenge that very thing in you that you don't even want to challenge or see within yourself. And even though I ain't gonna lie, I hate them enemies too now. But at the end of the day, it's because of them that I get to sit at that same table that young lady was talking about in her video. Or I get to sit at the same table that even David was talking about when he wrote that particular chapter, the 23rd Psalms, which is very familiar and popular, but also that particular verse. So the notes that I have down for my enemies are, I basically already said it, but they are the ones who challenge us. Our enemies are the ones who bury you. And I'm going to give you context on that in a minute. And they are the ones who God created just for you, which I also just brought up in Isaiah 54. And I just talked about that. But the main point out of all of those that I want to mention are they are the ones who bury you. And then I'll come back to the final point that I have. But out of the burying, I want to talk about Joseph. Joseph, we already know the story of Joseph, right? Joseph was unique from his brothers. His father gave him a coat of many colors. He saw dreams and he saw visions. He was just different. He was set apart. He was kind of chosen in a sense, in a special or unique way from his brothers. And as we know, they threw him in a pit. They took his coat that they wanted so bad. They took his coat, and I'm sorry, I'm skipping over the story because like all of that about the jealousy and about him seeing a dream about his brothers are going to be bound down to him, that part is not really the part that I want to point out necessarily, but just hang on. We're going to talk about the pit and how our enemies think what they're doing to destroy you is really there to help you. And that's why we got to be thankful for our enemies. So don't think that I'm overriding the story or, you know, missing out on important pieces. There's a particular part in the story that I want to really, you know, dig into just for a little bit because I don't want this video too long. But yeah, I digress. I'm going back to it. But they took the coat from him that his dad gave him, that they saw his dad give him. And they saw some people coming along and they said, okay, look, I'm going to sell my brother off and give him this coat and tell dad that this coat, that Joseph got killed by some wolves and, you know, just lying basically. We all know there's some people that sit there and create a whole story about you that ain't real, right? And just a lie. But that's basically what Joseph's brothers did. They fabricated a story. They came together as a group. That's typically how it works. They come together as a group and lie and fabricate a story that somebody else may be portrayed as a villain or be portrayed as dead, even though we know that Joseph is not dead. And I want to talk about the pit for a moment. Before we get to the palace, let's think about all of the people that pushed you in a pit and left you for dead. How many people have pushed you in a pit and left you there to rot, to die? They were once a brother to you or a sister, but I'm just talking about Joseph's little brother. They were once a brother or a sister or a cousin or a friend or a mentor or a church sister, a church brother. They once were somebody of importance to you, your blood, or even spiritual blood. You know, they played an important role in your life. And you look back and they done sold you off. Think about all the people that pushed you in the pit. What I got out this particular, and this is the part of the story that I actually wanted to touch bases on or dig deeper into. The thing about the pit, none of us want to be there. It's dark. It's a few feet down the ground that we don't necessarily want to be at until we die. And you know, I don't know. I'm assuming a pit will be just cold and you're lonely and you're by yourself and your family done betrayed you and I'm saying this because of Joseph, but you know, whoever done betrayed you. And next thing you know, you're sold off, and then these people come and rescue you out of the pit. But the pit, to me, the way that I feel God showed it to me was that the pit symbolizes the same thing that it does when God tells us to have mustard seed, the faith the size of a mustard seed. The seed is so tiny, and I know we've all seen a mustard seed before, but the mustard seed is so tiny, and you put it in the ground and you don't realize it, but after a while, like it yields a big harvest. And the way that God showed it to me is with Joseph. His brothers planted him in the ground, in the pit, but they didn't know that it would yield a palace. They didn't know that it would yield a palace. And I also got out of that bloom where you're planted. People buried you. People threw dirt on you. And you bloomed. They thought they were choking you. They thought that they were blinding your vision by placing you in darkness. But the light that's on the inside of you, that seed that Jesus himself planted on the inside of you, said that you have purpose. That was good. And that's the end of my notes, but there was still more that I wanted to say. There was a scripture that actually came about that talks about feeding your enemies as well. And I also, before I close out with Joseph, I also want to say that they sold him off. He bloomed where he was planted. They dropped him in the pit. He bloomed where he was planted. But guess what? They had to see him again. They had to see the very thing that they left for dead. And that's really the question. It goes with the opening of my video. It goes with my question. What do you do when you are faced with the very people that turned on you? What do you do when your person that was up one day is now in a famine and their next meal is in your hands? How do you handle that enemy? And I just kept hearing, when I was thinking about this story a couple months back, I just kept hearing God say, feed them. And I said, you know what, God, you're right. You are absolutely correct. Feed them. So thing about this video, or my thing with this storyline, is when you come across the people that did you wrong, just let it go. If it happened yesterday, let it go. If it happened last week, let it go. If it happened last month, let it go. If it happened last year or the year before that, 10 years ago, let it go. Let it go. And I'm being for real when I say that. Just let it go. And my response, and I know it's a long response, but my response to what do you do when there are people sitting at the table, I would tell you that you wasn't expecting to be there. I would tell you to feed them. Feed them, feed them, feed them. Your next level depends on it. Your family's life may depend on it. When you see the people that became your enemies or what have you, I want you to be able to love on them and greet them as if it never happened. Rejoice with them, almost like what the prodigal son's father did. When he saw him afar off, he immediately rejoiced. And guess what he did? He fed him too. That's the only thing I want you to get out this story. Don't hold grudges. Don't hang or hold people captive no longer than they need to. And personally, I remember I held my family captive. I was so upset. And I even went away for a couple of years. I was so upset for a variety of reasons. But I go over now, and I go over to like family members' houses now, and there's a peace on the inside of me, and it wasn't always there. I'm speaking to people that I was extremely furious with. And to me, it showed me a glimpse of my growth, that I can go and speak to people that I really wanted to choke. But seriously, it really showed my maturity level, because I wasn't always there. And that's what this channel is all about. Releasing the weight of unforgiveness, releasing the weight of just being mad, and just being mad and angry at something that might have happened 10 and 20 years ago. Just let it go. Forgive, and you will probably feel better on the inside. And if I'm honest, I feel better even while doing this video right now. It was like a release, because I've honestly been thinking about this video, and then I got a whole nother series that I want to do, but I haven't even put out I haven't even finished my last series about the one in my 20s. But it just feels like there's a release. And when you see your enemies, feed them. They're going to be hungry, so feed them. I know they lied on you, but feed them. I know they talked about you, but feed them. I know they even brought up a team to come up against you. Feed them. Feed them. Feed your enemy. They need something to drink. Give it to them. They need clothes on their back. Give it to them. And I also want to bring up the fact that we think that the table is all about our enemies. When really the table is about our heart posture. We went through all of this to get to the table in front of our enemies. Now where's your heart at? Did that last season teach you anything? Did that last trial teach you anything? Did that last separation or heartbreak teach you anything? I need us, as maybe the Releasing the Weight family, even as the kingdom of God, or children in the kingdom of God, to check our heart posture. And one more thing before I conclude this video. Actually, while I was writing down my notes for this, I was thinking about the movie Diary of a Mad Black Woman, the scene where Helen and Charles were at the table. And Charles is like, look, I'm a little hungry. And Helen's sitting at the table eating her salad. She says, Christina's gone. We don't need to be like Helen in this season, okay? Well, let's be like the Helen that went back and got it right with God and went back and helped Charles. But the petty Helen, let's not be like the petty version of Helen. And let's feed the Charles at our table. Let's give them what they need when they need it. But that's the end of this video. And I thought about their movie, so I couldn't end the video without saying it. But when God prepares us a table before us in the presence of our enemies, we're not going to eat in front of them and let them starve, but we're going to feed them. We're going to even offer it to them, even if they decline it. We're going to offer it to them. Because it's because of them in the first place. It's because of the pressure. It's because of the fire that they even placed on us that ended up being a jewel that's added to the crown of royalty that allowed us to be able to be sitting at the table. They helped get us dressed for the table. So feed your enemies. Because if I'm honest, and if we want to be really honest with ourselves, our enemies are the reason we are who we are today. Opposition is the only thing that makes us. Not the people that surround you saying, "Ooh, you're so cute. I love your hair. I love all of this." No. It's the people that are against you that's building your character. Now, don't you ever forget that. So, again, I think the point of this video was to release the weight of unforgiveness. And I hope that you got something out of this, because there's a next level on the horizon. And it's here. It's here. It's finally here. The next level is here. Until next time. Bye.